Hello and welcome back to Eco Girl in a Modern World. It has been way too long since the last video. I do apologize. I've definitely committed to my channel and I love talking about environmental concepts and how to apply them to real world life. I had actually intended this video to be posted at the beginning of the summer, like in June, and here we are in August. If you're in the United States, it's pretty hot here. As you can see, I have naturally curly hair and I'm always a little fuzzy, so it is definitely summertime still. But I wanted to go ahead and talk in today's video about a subject that's kind of important year-round, not just in summer, but pretty prevalent in summer, but also in winter. But I wanted to talk about the different types of organic fabrics and clothing options, and how it impacts the environment and how it impacts you, because that's really important to stay cool and dry in the summer and in the winter, and the long-term effect on the environment. So we're just going to go ahead and jump right in. Since the dawn of time, you've seen that there is a difference in clothing quality. The fabric that makes up the clothes that we wear goes a long way to making a difference to both the environment and to our physical health. Our skin, of course, is a biome of its own. It helps to protect us. It's a miraculous thing. When you get a cut, you heal. But your skin also absorbs a whole lot. And I think that goes kind of forgotten after a time, that just like any other part of your body, your skin, whatever it comes in contact with is very, very important. It's, so if you're dressing in natural fibers versus synthetic fibers. So we're going to go ahead and jump right in. Now, in earlier times, hundreds of years ago, we went with all organic fabrics. And the benefit of organic fabrics is that they breathe well, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But they also biodegrade. They go back into the earth. They have, when you talk about like a circle or a cycle, and in environmental issues, we talk a lot about end life. End life is when something goes back into the earth after it has served its purpose, right? And that's one thing that we fail to think about a whole lot. In a lot of modern contexts, we think, okay, it just has to be durable, but we don't think, okay, do we need this to last, 700 years, right? So that's something that we're going to look at. But in the early times, of course, we use nothing but natural fibers, which have their pros and their cons. But one of the biggest pros is that they have an end life. Like certain materials will biodegrade and go back into the earth. Now, what we kind of forgot along the way, and especially if you watched my other videos about plastics, is that as we got to play with plastics, and again, plastics can take on any form, we got to see how versatile they are for making thread or making fabric. So now, we got into a bunch of synthetic options for clothing, but again, those have the pros and cons as well. So we're going to go ahead and jump right in and just talk about, okay, what's the difference between synthetic material and clothing, natural material and clothing, and what's better, quote unquote, for the environment? What do we want to do to help be good to ourselves and good to the planet? Now, the first thing we're going to talk about is we're going to start with the synthetic side, just so we can see the differences, the pros, the cons, and then we'll end on a good note with what we can do differently to help. Now, again, right around anywhere from the 40s to the 70s, we discovered how plastic can be turned into anything. Plastic can be turned into threads that can be woven into material. And that very quickly became polyester, it became acrylic, and then later it became things like spandex and lycra, and it became nylon and viscose and Tencel and, Modal. So we're going to talk about this. First and foremost, the big one, the first one that we talk about, polyester. if you've lived through the 70s, if you've lived through the 60s, and my mom even talks about this too. She goes, it was so exciting. It felt so futuristic when we had disposable dresses, right, that were made of plastic. And again, we didn't know what we were getting into. We didn't think about the end life then, but we think about it now, or hopefully we think about it now. And again, in that time, you know, from the 50s to the 70s, if you watch media, you know, it really went from like Wild West to Walking on the Moon, and we were really fascinated. Like even the fashion, even the way we decorated our homes, everything was plastic. Everything was, you know, what is it? The big beanbag chairs, you know, full of styrofoam and stuff like that. We wanted it to be futuristic, and you didn't really think about the way plastic was going to impact us in the long run. But polyester, when you look at it, it is plastic. It is polyurethane. And when you think of polyurethane, you know, you think of those big canisters that can explode, right? that fuel our world. But polyurethane, or anything polyester, is a chemically created substance. And what it is just like glue or anything else, anything that takes on a texture is chemicals interacting with each other. And what polyester is there are receptors, almost like soap or anything else. There are receptors that connect with receptors. It's like the way the chemicals bond to one another that become lines. And I'll go ahead and put up a graph so we can get a better idea. But polyester, or any synthetic fiber, are two chemicals being poured together. And when the two chemicals touch, you can pull out a thread of substance of where they combined. And it's one chemical connecting to another chemical that's creating a thread. And that thread is completely synthetic. It is not a natural fiber, right? But what we can do is we can, through a chemical process, take that interaction, create a thread, process it, turn it on a spool, and create something that can be woven. Now, the benefit of it is that it's completely human made, right? It's easy to manufacture, because we don't have to wait for cotton to grow. You don't have to wait for a plant to grow. You don't have to wait for a plant to dry. And later, when we get into natural fibers, you'll see those are quote unquote cons. It doesn't take time. It's quick, and you can create it and spool it up. So, but the pros of polyester is that it feels very silk-like. It doesn't wrinkle. When you wash it, it dries quickly, and you can produce it, at least at this point in time, you can produce it pretty easily and cheaply. Now, the cons of polyester, first and foremost, is that it is plastic. So it is like wearing a plastic bag. Is it hot in here? It feels hot to me. And when you wear a plastic bag, it doesn't breathe. It doesn't breathe. You actually sweat more. And I'll even share a personal story. There was a time that, and even to this day, when I put on synthetic fabrics, because I've switched to organic fabrics, and when I switch over to synthetic again, I feel it. I notice it. But and not to be TMI, but there was a time when I started noticing little spots on my skin. And I went to the dermatologist, and he said, "Oh, okay, that's, that's a natural kind of fungus." And I'm like, excuse me? And he goes, "Well, everything, bacteria lives on your skin every single day. That's what makes you smell funny when under your armpits when you start to sweat. That's bacteria, right? So it's not an unnatural thing. You always have stuff feeding off you. There's dust mites, there's things that like to feed off dead skin. So that's why you keep exfoliated. But there's also other baddies like bacteria or fungus who will like to eat the perspiration on your skin. So I started noticing these little dots on my skin, and he's like, "Well, you notice that these are popping up in the areas where your bra is, or where you've been wearing clothes that doesn't breathe. And so polyester, first and foremost, does not breathe. And later I'm going to do another video that talks about bedding. Anytime you put on a synthetic polyester or acrylic blanket, you might feel like, oh, okay, I'm keeping warm, but think of it as putting a trash bag on yourself. It doesn't breathe. It doesn't breathe. So the con is that it's plastic. It doesn't breathe. The other thing is that, think about it in that diagram that you just saw. It's chemicals interacting with each other. So you're really putting a chemical substance on your body. You're putting something close to your skin. And it's funny, I see so many videos that talk about caring for animals, caring for puppies, caring for babies, that have these like acrylic blankets that are really fuzzy, but they're not. You're putting that substance against your skin. So unfortunately, polyester, and in a minute when we get to acrylic, you are putting a chemical substance against your skin. And if you have sensitive skin, or even if you just have regular skin, you're forcing your skin to adapt to something that's not a natural fabric, and it can react. So if you're prone to rashes, if you're allergic to, and we'll talk about it in a minute, if you're allergic to, Band-Aids that have, those gloves, latex in it, you could have a reaction. Also, if you have a skin disorder, like if you've been diagnosed with any of the skin disorders that make you break out, that could be because of synthetic fabric. Now, the second big synthetic fabric that you see a lot, which is really in the same family as polyester, and also polyester, the chemical, the smell of the chemicals, the production plants, polyester getting into the water supply, like every single time you wash polyester, there's still a chemical residue, and the way it's produced is not healthy for the people who produce it. Just like, putting it on your skin has a residue, imagine creating it in the plant. It's probably a chemical mess, right? But the second type of synthetic fabric is acrylic. And acrylic is right up there with polyester. It is plastic, and unfortunately, but in its defense, I'm not innocent. I own, anytime you buy a stuffed animal, like if you like the new trend of squishmallows, that's acrylic. And what it is it's really fluffy material. My favorite soft, fluffy socks, and socks are a big offender. You're never going to find, it's very rare to find a pair of socks that are 100% cotton, that don't have some kind of synthetic crossover, right? But a lot of them are acrylic, and it makes them warm and fuzzy and soft. But the thing about acrylic is acrylic, just like polyester, is 100% synthetic. It's created that same way by chemicals meeting each other, and it's primarily plastic. But the difference between polyester and acrylic is a lot fuzzier. It is going to make up a lot of those fuzzy blankets and fuzzy socks. And also just about 99% of all stuffed animals, the covering, the material that's used to make, also the filling, if something's really soft, the fluffy filling. Also, you got to look at the polyfill that's in your in your pillows. And we'll go more into that when we talk about bedding. But acrylic, I think of acrylic as a material is almost, it's spun to be almost like fluffy, like a cotton ball. And it is made the same way as polyester, with the two chemicals meeting each other. But the biggest problem with acrylic is that it is made kind of like the same way that house installation is made. And you've seen house installation, and you notice if you've ever done home improvement, you can't lay that house insulation, the pink stuff, is bad for your lungs because little particles can be breathed in, and that's where a lot of asbestos comes from. It's little particulates that get in the air. It's like little, it breaks off into such small pieces that you can actually breathe it in and it can get in your lungs. And that material, acrylic, is the same thing, it's just in plastic material form. It breaks off very small little pieces of plastic every time you wash it, every time you put it up to your face. And when you think about it, if you're laying on a blanket or if you're holding a stuffed animal to your face. And the thing about acrylic is, if you've seen documentaries about microplastics, and this ties into like oceans and water quality. When your water goes, when you wash an acrylic blanket or you wash your acrylic socks, and it goes to a water processing plant that has to filter out all those chemicals. And what it does is it puts the water through filters, but those filters cannot catch those teeny microscopic little pieces of plastic that are breaking off from your acrylic material because it's a synthetic fiber. And what happens is it goes into a holding bin where those little pieces sink to the bottom, and then we try to get bottom feeders, like we try to create, and this is how crazy it is, we try to create organisms that will eat plastic. But the problem is that these little pieces, especially acrylic does the same thing polyester does. It's bad for your skin because it's synthetic, it's chemically based, but then these little pieces of acrylic break off every time you wash or wear or breathe in. And when it goes to water treatment plants, just like the ocean, in the ocean, when we throw water or we throw plastics into the ocean or glitter, that if it doesn't go through a water processing plant, if we can't get all those little pieces out of the water, which is very difficult because they're so microscopic, they sink to the bottom. And sometimes they get into oceans too. If you bring a blanket on a boat, it gets, the residue, the runoff from all of our treatment plants goes into the ocean. And what happens is fish and wildlife are used to eating algae, right? And little microplastics look like algae. So it becomes a really bad cycle of us not being able to get these teeny tiny little pieces of plastic out of our water supply. And it gets in our oceans, it gets in our water treatment plants, and then eventually it gets back into us. So that's culprit number 2. Acrylic is really a bad one. And also it is terrible for the factories that produce acrylic. And when it's in demand because it's being used for stuffed animals or being used for bedding, that's when it becomes more in demand, where it needs to be created. And, people will produce it because it's being, we pay to buy it. If the buying dollar controls everything, if we pay to buy it, then it'll be produced, and then it perpetrates the bad cycle. But acrylic is very bad. It's the air quality, again, is like asbestos to the production plants that create it, because it's such fine powder. It's like cotton candy, but it's the synthetic material equivalent of insulation for walls. And it's so bad. It's bad for the environment, it's bad for our skin, and it's not good for the companies that create it. So now the next synthetic fabric that we'll go into is all the stretchy ones. The Lycra, the Spandex, the Nylon, right? And these were revolutionary in the 40s, to have nylon stockings, because they stretch and they pull close to the skin, right? And nylon and spandex, this is another thing that goes into our socks and our undergarments. You can't have a bra that fits without a little bit of stretch, right? But nylon, spandex, and what's the last one? Nylon, spandex, and I just said it. Yes, any of the stretchy fabrics, I'm sorry. Those were created by DuPont, which is a very infamous name when it comes to synthetic fabrics, created the exact same way that polyester and acrylic is made. It's chemical reaction, but it creates a permeable and stretchable substance. Now, of course, these synthetic fabrics benefit our lives because we can't have clothes that fit well without having these kind of benefits. So they're not bad, but the disadvantage of all three of them, polyester, acrylic, and spandex and nylon, they don't biodegrade. They don't go back into the ground. They will be in landfills for a very, very long time. So what we really want to do is, and if you've ever put on a Band-Aid that has latex on it, that's also another really big. The irony is that I see so many celebrities like wearing all latex, like really like stuffing their body into a latex bodysuit. And I'm like, I would break out. I'm allergic to latex Band-Aids. I would be a big flaming rash if I tried to squeeze my happy butt into an all latex thing. And it's not, I understand, it's fashion. It's fashion, right? The other thing is I'm not ungrateful because, you know, my tatas are being held up by some spandex right now, so I can't complain. But what it is that those are also chemically created. If they're direct to the skin, like if you've ever had a less expensive bra that's not covered, or if you've had underwear that doesn't cover the stretch, if you've felt it against your skin and you start to break out or get irritated in areas where the spandex, the latex, the rayon, rayon too, is right next to your skin, that is because it is a synthetic material and it does not biodegrade back into the ground very easily. All three would probably take up, just like a plastic bag, would probably take up to 700 years, if that, and then it would still be seeping into our, when it tries to go back, it's not a synthetic, it's not a natural fiber, so as it biodegrades, we have no idea. All these materials have been created in the last 100 years, so we have no idea what it's going to do to our ground quality, our water quality, and that's what all these materials, you know, all these chemicals, we bury it in the ground, it gets watered on, and it's just going to seep right back into our water supply. So we, you know, what we want to do is we want to limit it. It's a great technology. It stretches great, but we don't want it to be 100% of what we're putting against our skin, and we don't want it to be 100% back into a landfill. We want to think about how it's going to go back into the circle and what its end life is. And when we get to the solutions at the end of this video, we're going to talk about that. So this is not all gloom and doom. It gets better. But last but not least, we'll go into the areas where we thought we were getting eco-friendly, the semi-synthetic fabrics, which is, if you've ever heard of Tencel, Tencel, if you've ever heard of Viscose, or there's a last one, and I'm forgetting the name, but I'll put it on the screen. Those are what I refer to as, they are semi-synthetic. They are half natural fibers, but half synthetic. And what that is it's using wood pulp. When you mash up wood, and then you use a chemical process. I honestly refer to these fabrics as being the particle board fabrics. If you've ever bought anything from IKEA, you know how you look, if you cut the wood in half, all it is a bunch of wood chips that's been glued together. That's exactly what Tencel and Viscose is. And what's the last one? I am drawing a blank on the last one. But those are the materials that are mashed up wood pulp that go through a chemical cleansing process, like an acid bath kind of process, in order to be woven into, to be pulled into a string of fiber that can be woven. Now, the advantage is it's using trees, and that is natural. The disadvantage is we use enough trees to make our toilet paper. It's not really saving us anything. And then but then you put all of that natural fiber through a chemical bath in order to get it to bind. So it's no different. It's no, honestly, in my humble opinion, it's no better than polyester because it's been through a chemical bath. The moment you put it against your skin, you can have the same reaction. You know, if you have a skin, if you have a reaction, if you suffer from skin sensitivity, it can still break you out something wicked. Then the other thing is that because it's wood pulp, the material is highly flammable. It's highly flammable. Also, I've worn Tencel, and it seems to, almost like a piece of paper, when you sweat in it, it really soaks it up. It doesn't dry as quickly. And again, it's pretty flammable, but it is semi-synthetic. It is being made with wood elements, but then it's still going through the same chemical bath. Now, unfortunately, that end of life, it is a little bit more biodegradable. It's the 50% that's wood pulp would biodegrade, but it's no different again than your particle board going into the landfill. If all the glue, all that chemical bath that keeps the synthetic fiber, the fibers together, would still go right into our, as it's biodegrading, it would soak into our land, it would soak into our water every time you wash it. That chemical bath doesn't go away. So, but those are the synthetic fibers, and again, all of the pros are the same. They don't wrinkle, but the disadvantages are the same. They can break you out. Your skin doesn't like it. It doesn't breathe. Some of them are flammable, and they don't biodegrade. The end life is very questionable with those fabrics. So now we're going to go into what we can do differently, which is really exciting. It's actually pretty nice, and it's something that I've been committing myself to in the last year as part of the changes. And that change is get your wardrobe, have an intervention on your wardrobe, and it can be slow, because believe me, I have plenty of beautiful tops that I have spent a lot of money on that are all polyester, and I'm like, oh God, I can't part with it, right? So slowly do an intervention on your closet. But what you want to do is you want to go cotton. You want to go cotton, you want to go organic fibers. And now we're going to talk about what those natural organic fibers are. First and foremost, the look, the feel of cotton, the fabric of our lives. There was media campaigns that talked about this in the 80s, right? It was like, okay, let's switch to cotton, right? Let's switch to cotton. And there's different types of cotton now. You've probably heard of Egyptian cotton. If you've heard of PIMA, P-I-M-A cotton. Now, the biggest pro of cotton is that it's an organic fiber. It will biodegrade. At the end of its life, it will go back into the ground. And if it's 100% cotton, it's not going to cause any damage. It's not going to put chemicals in our groundwater. It's not going to put chemicals in our earth. And it'll eventually go back into the earth, which is wonderful. The other thing is that cotton breathes. It breathes really nicely. It actually kind of breathes in a way that actually all the natural fibers we're going to talk about has kind of a natural climate control, and more so with linen, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But as you get hot, it lets out, heat, and then as you get cold, it retains heat. It's kind of like a very natural barrier. Also, when you sweat, it breathes a lot better. It would not hold moisture against your skin the way polyester would. You wouldn't get any of that nastiness that I was talking about at the beginning of this video. And then the other thing is that it naturally, the different brands of cotton, regular cotton is very easy to find. Pima cotton is a little bit more of a premier type of cotton. What it is it's got naturally, just like the benefit of polyester is that it has longer threads, like stronger threads. The synthetic fibers are durable. Pima cotton is very durable. It's naturally grown with longer fibers and denser fibers. So it naturally resists a lot more. Sometimes if you see 100% cotton, it might be a little thin or a little flimsy, or it might wear out over time. But Pima cotton and Egyptian cotton is woven thicker, and it has longer natural threads that last longer. They're more durable. Now, Pima cotton is only grown in 3 places, though. It's grown in Australia, it's grown in select southern states, mostly Texas, and it's grown in Peru. And so the advantage is that it breathes, it's natural, it biodegrades, your skin will notice the difference, and it absorbs moisture very well. It breathes. The moment you sweat on it, it dries itself out very quickly. The disadvantage is that just regular cotton wears out or can be kind of thin, and the more you wash it will wear out quickly. Pima cotton is more durable, but the disadvantage of Pima and Egyptian is because of the way it's made, it takes longer to grow, and it's more expensive. It's more expensive. The other thing is that the amount of water that it takes to create a cotton garment is a little bit extensive, and this is a subject of debate. I actually have a wonderful pair of jeans that are by BP, which is called Better People, and they actually put on the pocket on the inside the amount of water that it took to create. And it's a little bit of a controversy, but it's something that we can control, is that the more you bleach cotton, the more water it takes to produce it. So if you want cotton that has no color because you want to be able to dye it, the only reason it has to be pure white is because later you have to dye it the colors that, if you want a pink shirt or a blue shirt or whatever. But and then, cotton has a natural tint to it. It's not organic cotton is usually kind of tan or linen colored. But water is a consideration, and actually water conservation is one of the sticking points why people try to push synthetic fabrics, because they not only want to stay on synthetic fabrics, but they say, oh, well, it uses less water to produce, it takes more water to produce cotton than it does synthetic, so let's just stick with synthetic. But synthetic has a bad end life. Cotton is the way to go, but just like we want to keep our water clean, right? It's better to keep our water clean from microplastics, honestly. But my pair of jeans that I love and that I wear by Better People actually talk about the amount of water that it takes. And cotton is very water intensive. I'm going to post a video from YouTube here that's actually talks about water conservation. It's a great tutorial. I'll put the timestamp of where it talks about water that's used for jeans. The host of it is actually a famous personality. It's Adrienne Grenier from the Entourage fame. But it was very interesting documentary, and I'll put the timestamp. But water conservation, and we'll talk about that more in the future, is one consideration with cotton because it takes a lot of water to produce, but it biodegrades and it's better for your skin, and it doesn't put chemicals or microplastics in our water supply. So it's kind of like a pro and con, and it's better to use more water to create something that's sustainable than to taint our water with stuff that is synthetic, in my opinion. Now, second material we're going to talk about is linen. Linen is a beautiful material, and it is made by the flax plant. It also has very long, strong fibers, and I'm actually going to hold up a few pieces here. Now, the benefit of linen is that it's been around hundreds and hundreds of years, and it's very, very durable. It's very, very strong. It gets softer as you wash it. And now the thing is, the fiber is kind of thick, where it feels not as scratchy as burlap, but it feels like that thickness. But again, the more you wash it, the softer it gets. And it's very, very durable. Just like Pima cotton, it's very, very durable. It is organically grown. It doesn't take as much water to create. But the disadvantages of linen is that it wrinkles. I'm sorry. One other pro is that this breathes like a dream. Just like wool, just like cotton, if you sweat in this, it dries out instantaneously. And then the other thing is that it is so good for your skin. This is the type of insulation that you can wear year round. And it's funny, with linen, one thing that people think is they look at it and they think, oh, this is so thin, I couldn't wear that in winter. But the beautiful thing about linen is that you can wear it in the summer, and just like cotton, as you get hotter, it breathes any excess heat, and as you get colder, it retains the heat that you need. It's a fantastic insulator, and it's deceiving because the same thickness, like you can even see through this, the same thickness will give you that natural breathable-ness. Now, and this is one other thing that I found, that this is a Talbot shirt, and it's also 100% linen, and it is stylish. and it is soft. And the more I wash it, the softer it gets. And it breathes, again, winter, summer, and this is a good transition fabric between the seasons, you know, for spring and fall. Now, the disadvantages of linen is that it takes longer to grow, and there's a process of natural drying that it has to go through. It has to kind of sit out in the sun and go through a natural drying process before it is processed. So it is not, unfortunately, it's not as easily produced as cotton. We can't kick it out because it just doesn't grow that fast, and the drying process adds to the time. So it's like one of those plants that has a seasonal kind of curve to it. The other thing is it takes a little bit more, it takes more water than synthetic, not as much as cotton though. So that is one benefit. So unfortunately, the drying times and the growing times and the less water, and it is grown in certain areas of the world, but the advantage is it can be grown more. Flaxseed can be definitely grown in this in the Midwest United States. Like any dry climate would really work. So it can really be grown anywhere. But it does make it more expensive. It makes it more expensive, but to be honest, the price that I paid $100 for a completely polyester top. I mean, if you pay the same price and you're investing in it, linen is completely biodegradable, right? And actually you see a lot of, if you look at like turn of the century photographs, especially in places like Key West, you'll see a lot of linen pants, and you know, in Egypt and stuff, they breathe so well. And but the only disadvantage is they do wrinkle. It wrinkles very easily, but it is a thicker fabric. And again, it's a little stiff when you first buy it, but the more you wash it, the softer it gets. And the breathing quality, it is so good for your skin. So good for your skin. I have not had any skin issues. I haven't had any dots on my skin, and I honestly haven't had to use as much antiperspirant since I've switched to all these organic fabrics, right? Now, the next fabric that we're going to talk about is natural wool and flannel. Now, flannel goes into the synthetic category, but natural wool is such a versatile fabric. And I'm going to be talking a lot about this in bedding as well, because again, as we get into the colder months, it's such a versatile fabric. Now, wool is fire resistant. I kid you not, it could be used as insulation on a house if you wanted to. All that insulation that we talked about giving you lung problems, wool does not do that, right? Wool is fire retardant. It's naturally insulating. It's the warmest type of fabric that you can have, and it breathes just like linen, just like cotton. It breathes like a dream. It really, and it's interesting when I get in later, when I do the bedding video, I switched out my synthetic polyfill comforter, which again, I felt like a plastic bag. I felt like I wasn't breathing. It was just, and my skin just didn't feel the same, right? I felt like I was sweating a lot. I switched it out for a wool comforter, like an insert to a duvet, and I have been sleeping like a baby. It's amazing. The other thing is that a lot of wool has a natural lanolin. When you first buy it, it kind of smells like a barn. It smells like a field of sheep, but it's a natural softening agent, right? But the pros of wool is that it breathes, it's fire retardant, it's extremely warm. So for the heavier fabrics, it's excellent, and especially for winter months. I actually bought a pair of shoes, slip-ons called Babooks. I wanted to get away from, you see a lot of those, the Crocs, which are all plastic. And I went ahead and went with Babooks, which are felted wool with natural rubber soles. And they're wonderful. And the funny thing is, I've been wearing them in summer. I've been wearing them the same way that I wear my Crocs, that you would wear Crocs. And I haven't been terribly hot in them because they breathe. They breathe. Now, the beautiful thing about wool is that now the disadvantage of wool is that it's pretty scratchy. It's pretty scratchy. Just like linen, just like you know, any of the thicker materials. It does feel kind of itchy. Feels kind of itchy. Now, the alternatives to that is that merino wool is from a particular type of sheep, which is a lot finer, less coarse, still durable, and very soft to the skin. It feels great against the skin. It's just like a fabulous, you know. The other thing that you can kind of go with wool is that if you go with wool that is a blend, like a wool blend with other fabrics, natural fabrics, it feels a lot softer. Now, the other thing is there is alpaca. You can go with fibers that are made from alpaca instead of regular sheep. That is very soft, very insulated. Now, of course, just like any other natural fabric, the disadvantage is the price point. It's going to cost you a little bit more money. But it's interesting how I've read all of the reviews, and all of these reviews talk about what a great investment it is, that it's worth every penny, that it lasts a long time, your skin feels great, and it's like worth the investment. If you added up all of the cheap plastic polyester shirts you bought and went with the 100% natural garment instead, it would last you a long time. The end of life is good for the environment. Now, one other fabric that we can talk about also in the natural fabric fields is silk. Advantages of silk: it breathes. If it absorbs moisture, it wicks. You talk about wicking moisture away from your skin. All natural fibers do that. Silk is very great for that. And silk doesn't wrinkle. It's nice and fluid. The disadvantage is that silk is not vegan. It is the way that you create silk is by boiling cocoons of spiders. So it is not, if you're humane to spiders, it's not cruelty free. But it of course feels really good against the skin. Also, in the same line of linen and wool, especially linen and kind of the linen family, other types is definitely bamboo. Bamboo has been used for fiber, and that's a wonderful, that bamboo grows so quickly. It's very easy to grow, and then it can be used to make fiber. Now, the only thing that you got to bear in mind is, just like Tencel and Viscose, you want to make sure, and Modal. Modal's the last one. Just like those three that are synthetic, you've got to make sure that the bamboo isn't being treated chemically in order to get it, because that is like almost like wood pulp, right? Another one is hemp. Hemp is just like linen. It's a thick, you know, burlap and hemp. It can be woven very easily, and linen is the husk of a flax plant. Hemp has husks as well. Bamboo has husks, and that's what they're doing. They're taking that shell of a plant and weaving it into fabric, which is fantastic, right? It's fantastic. So all of these natural fibers work beautifully. I have successfully transitioned about 75% of my closet to organic fibers. Again, aside from my socks, and aside from anything else, my undergarments, my bra, I went with a company called Organic Basics. It does have a little bit of spandex in it, but it's only in, you know, the band. So, you know, if we're just using a little bit of it here and there and it's covered by organic cotton, you still reap the benefits without a whole lot of byproduct going into the environment. You know, because we're not going to completely get away from all this convenience. But another great company is called Pact. And, you know, they have like hoodies. And what I love about it is they have finger holes, thumb holes. I did not know what I was missing until I had a thumb hole. The other thing is that companies like Life is Good, they have, this is actually a brushed cotton crew neck, I'm sorry, sweatshirt, 100% cotton. It's not It's not anything synthetic, and it has kept me wonderfully warm. The other thing is, don't rule out your regular places like Massimo. This is my favorite plaid shirt, 100% cotton. Also, Old Navy, they have 100% cotton. And the first thing that you can do if you want to make the change, if you're ready to make the change, if you feel like, okay, I have been sweating too much, my skin feels irritated, I don't want to be chronically exposing my skin, because the other thing is that it's our immune system, right? You don't want to have to give your body more to fight off. So, you know, keeping natural fabrics against your skin goes a long way to your health, right? So if you decide, okay, that's important to me, I want to care about the environment, start with your clothes. Start with your clothes, you know. Recycling does go a long way, you know, so a lot of the polyester that's already out there, I'm seeing wonderful places that is upcycling, that's refurbishing, reselling clothes. A famous designer, Sammy Miro, created an entire line that was nothing but, you know, upcycled 80s clothing. You see a lot of celebrities wearing that now, so it's an it thing. You see you see magazines, fashion magazines, talking about the importance of, you know, making that change, not just, you know, kicking out synthetic fibers, right? So this is where we're going. So all you're doing is, by being green or eco-friendly with it, you're staying ahead of the time, and you can be trendy with it. Now, the first thing that you can do to start this change is to pop some tags. Pop your tags. Pull out the tags of everything that you own and everything. And when you go to a store, you know, it's never on the back of the neck either. It's always on the side. You kind of have to flip open. I often wonder if people are giving me funny looks because I'll walk into the high-end stores. You know, I actually, this is one of my favorite 100% cotton sweaters, and I got it from Banana Republic. And the first thing I did is I walked in and I said, okay, where's my tag? You know, what's this made of, right? So you're going to look a little bit funny, but you're going to be the change you wish to see, right? But as you go through, you know, you can find a lot. The other thing is, you can find a lot without spending a whole lot of money. That low water jean BP I got at Nordstrom for $46. And honestly, when you think about, and that's my favorite pair of jeans. They're my favorite pair of mom jeans too. You know, under $50 for a pair of jeans is not the worst. This wonderful linen top that I showed you, I got for $15 at the thrift store. The jeans, the cutoff jeans that I'm wearing right now, are Levi's jeans and jean shorts, and they are 99% cotton. I popped those tags right in it, and it was at the thrift store for $5. I got a pair of cargo pants, cargo shorts, for $7 at the thrift store. And I know, you know, in this day and age, you don't have to go to the thrift store to find it, but there's a million ways that you can do this. You can make the switch without spending a whole lot of money. Now, the other, just one other, you know, thing to consider as you're making the change is that a lot of these, you know, a lot of these fibers, when they're all natural, they're not going to be as easy as synthetic. They might not have the cut that you're looking for. It might be a little bit of transition. You know, again, when you stand up, you might have some wrinkles on your linen pants. But I've noticed that that's a really small price to pay. And honestly, a lot of fashion today is really boxy anyway. You know, going to these different websites, it's amazing. I'll go to different websites, and 90% of the stuff they sell is all like polyester, and, you know, just, you know, click on the link that says, okay, what materials make up this? But one of my favorite shirts, I'm not wearing it now, surprisingly, I've worn it like every day this summer, was this tank top that it was a cotton linen blend, 100% cotton linen. And I actually bought two of them. because I've been living in them all summer long, and they are so comfortable that actually most days I don't have to wear a bra, which is great. I'm sorry if you work from, if you work remotely, or if you kind of, just a lot of this doesn't have to be like a fashion statement, or it's the cut that you use, or the way that you wear it can be very flattering to your body. So just the other thing is that the coloring that you choose. So those are the biggest things, and that's a consideration anytime you're buying clothes in general. But definitely, think about your body type. Think about what's flattering. Okay, if it's heart shaped, or if it's more tapered in, or if it's high waisted. And then, I have a great book that I bought that talks about the colors, the color schemes that look best on my complexion. So definitely line all of that up. And then, when you know what colors look good on you, what cut looks good on you, go out and pop those tags. Look at the tags, look at the materials of what's going into what you're wearing, and just slowly transition it as you donate one thing out of your closet, bring in something organic to replace it. And you're doing a great service to your body, and you're doing a great service to the environment. But I thank you so much for joining me. It feels really great to do this video. It's been a long time. I promise I'll be putting out more videos more frequently. I won't go 6 months without another one. But I thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope to catch you in the next video. Bye.